There's a strange irony in the automotive world. Cars are marketed as the ultimate symbol of freedom, independence, and personal choice. Yet, some vehicles have turned out to be so impractical, inefficient, or flat-out frustrating that they feel like a punishment rather than a privilege. While public transport often gets criticized for delays, crowds, or lack of comfort, certain cars make you seriously question if owning one is even worth it. This isn't about exotic prototypes that never made it past the concept stage or cheap cars that nobody expected to succeed. What we're exploring today are production cars that were bought, driven, and lived with by real people, and then revealed themselves to be more of a burden than a benefit. These vehicles stand out because they manage to fail in areas where even buses and trains can feel superior. Reliability, cost, comfort, and usability. So, let's look at 10 cars that, in their own unique ways, turned driving into a worse experience than public transport. Number 10. Smart Fortwo. The Smart Fortwo looks like it was designed with urban life in mind. It's small, easy to maneuver, and can slip into parking spots that SUVs can only dream about. At first glance, this sounds like an urban dream solution. Yet, once behind the wheel, that dream starts to unravel quickly. The tiny footprint may be convenient for parking, but it leaves the cabin feeling cramped, especially on longer trips where comfort is no longer negotiable. The suspension is stiff, amplifying every pothole and bump in the road, which turns city driving into a surprisingly jarring experience. Then there's the transmission, infamous among drivers for its sluggish and awkward shifts. It often hesitates before deciding what gear it wants, making acceleration feel unpredictable at best. Add to that the limited cargo space, and suddenly the practical city car can barely carry more than a grocery bag and a backpack. Safety concerns also cast a shadow, as early crash test ratings weren't exactly confidence-inspiring. For a car marketed as perfect for busy city streets, it sometimes feels more like a compromise than a solution. While it shines in theory, in real-world use, it reminds drivers that convenience isn't always about size. It's about balance, something the Fortwo never fully delivered. Number 9. Hummer H2. The Hummer H2 stormed into the early 2000s with bold styling and an equally bold reputation. It became the ultimate status symbol of bigger is better. But beneath that oversized frame, practicality was left behind. Fuel economy was its most infamous flaw, with real-world numbers dipping into single digits per gallon. Filling the tank became less of a routine and more of a financial strategy. For city dwellers, it wasn't just the fuel costs. Finding a parking spot wide enough felt like winning a lottery you didn't buy a ticket for. Driving the H2 often resembled guiding a small ship through traffic. Its heavy steering and sluggish handling made even simple lane changes an event, and sharp corners became negotiations rather than turns. Despite the military-inspired design, its capabilities off-road rarely matched the image it projected. Owners quickly realized the tough exterior was more for curb appeal than actual rugged performance. Then came the environmental backlash. With growing concerns about emissions and sustainability, the H2 became a symbol of excess rather than utility. While it undeniably drew attention, it often wasn't the kind of attention drivers wanted. For many, the allure of commanding presence faded under the weight of gas receipts, parking struggles, and the sobering reality that the H2 was more about spectacle than substance. Number 8. Chrysler PT Cruiser. The Chrysler PT Cruiser entered the market with a promise of vintage-inspired design paired with modern usability. At first, it attracted plenty of buyers who wanted something different from the sea of generic hatchbacks and sedans. Unfortunately, the appeal of its retro look didn't survive close inspection. The interior was plagued by cheap plastics that wore quickly, and the driving experience was anything but exciting. Handling felt dull, acceleration uninspired, and the overall ride lacked refinement. What made matters worse was reliability, or the lack of it. Mechanical issues cropped up far too often, leaving owners frustrated and wallet light. As these cars aged, repairs became not just frequent, but expensive relative to the car's value. And that value plummeted faster than most rivals. The PT Cruiser became notorious for rapid depreciation, turning what seemed like a quirky, fun purchase into an unwise financial choice. The styling, once hailed as bold, aged poorly. What started as distinctive quickly slipped into awkward territory, with fewer and fewer people finding the charm in its curves. For those who held on to theirs, embarrassment sometimes replaced pride, as the once unique design became a punchline. The PT Cruiser is a reminder that bold ideas need solid execution, and in this case, the execution simply fell flat. Number 7. Tata Nano. The Tata Nano made international headlines as the cheapest car in the world, promising to put millions of families on 4 wheels for the first time. Its launch was met with excitement, but reality turned that excitement into disappointment. To achieve its groundbreaking low price, sacrifices were made in areas that mattered most. Safety features were minimal, comfort was nearly non-existent, and reliability was questionable at best. For buyers expecting a modest but functional vehicle, the Nano often felt unfinished. Inside, the experience was bare bones. Features that had long been considered standard in even entry-level cars were absent. The tiny engine struggled on highways, and build quality issues added to the frustration of ownership. Word spread quickly, and the perception of the Nano shifted from affordable mobility to cheap compromise. Perhaps the biggest challenge wasn't mechanical, but social. Owning the world's cheapest car carried a stigma that no amount of clever marketing could erase. For many buyers, status mattered as much as transportation, and the Nano unintentionally highlighted financial struggles rather than solving mobility needs. Sales dwindled, and what was intended as a revolution quietly faded. The Nano became a lesson in how affordability alone isn't enough to win hearts, especially when pride and safety are part of the equation. Number 6. Pontiac Aztek. The Pontiac Aztek had the potential to be a bold step forward in the SUV market, but instead, it became a lesson in how not to design a vehicle. The exterior styling was its most talked-about feature, and not for good reasons. With oddly angled panels and a front end that confused more than it impressed, the Aztek quickly earned a reputation as one of the least attractive vehicles ever produced. Looks aside, things didn't improve much once you climbed inside. The interior materials felt cheap, with plastics that scratched easily and fabrics that wore out faster than they should. For a car aimed at adventurous families, the underwhelming engine options and clumsy driving dynamics made road trips more of a chore than a thrill. Fuel economy wasn't remarkable, and maintenance costs only added to owner frustration. Ironically, the Aztek wasn't short on clever ideas. Its optional camping package included a tent that attached to the rear, a cooler built into the center console, and a surprisingly versatile cargo area. On paper, it had features that should have won over outdoor enthusiasts. Unfortunately, the execution didn't match the ambition. Instead of being remembered as an innovative SUV, the Aztek became a cultural punchline, proving that innovation without polish rarely wins hearts. Number 5. Reliant Robin. The Reliant Robin might be one of the most recognizable cars ever made, though mostly for the wrong reasons. Built with only 3 wheels to qualify for motorcycle tax benefits in the UK, it looked like a compact alternative for budget-conscious drivers. But in practice, that third-wheel setup created a cascade of problems. The lack of stability was notorious, especially during sharp turns, where the Robin had a reputation for leaning too far and sometimes tipping completely. Performance was another weak point. The lightweight body paired with small engines gave the car modest fuel efficiency, but it struggled with speed and reliability. Long drives became an exercise in patience, and overtaking on highways was often unrealistic. Safety was nearly non-existent by modern standards, with the design prioritizing cost savings over crash protection. Owners did appreciate that it was inexpensive to run and surprisingly roomy inside for its size, but those positives were overshadowed by its flaws. Media appearances further cemented its image as a vehicle prone to comedic disaster, making it harder for anyone to take it seriously. The Robin wasn't just impractical, it became a rolling reminder that cutting corners on stability can turn driving into an unpredictable, nerve-wracking experience. Number 4. Fiat Multipla. The Fiat Multipla stands out in automotive history for one reason above all else: its design. From the outside, the styling was unlike anything on the road, featuring a wide stance and an extra set of headlights tucked beneath the windshield. This bold look was intended to emphasize practicality, but it left many scratching their heads. The result was a car that families appreciated for utility, but few wanted to be seen in. Inside, however, the Multipla actually delivered. With seating for 6 in 2 rows of 3, it made incredible use of space for such a compact footprint. The high roofline provided excellent headroom, and the wide body created a surprisingly comfortable cabin. Visibility was strong thanks to large windows, and folding seats allowed for versatile cargo solutions. Yet the drawbacks soon caught up. Reliability was never the Multipla's strength, and electrical issues were a recurring theme for many owners. While the interior layout was smart, the quality of materials left much to be desired. For families hoping for peace of mind, frequent trips to the mechanic quickly outweighed the clever seating arrangement. In the end, the Multipla's problem wasn't just its looks. It tried to balance practicality and innovation, but stumbled when durability and refinement were most needed. Number 3. Yugo GV. The Yugo GV arrived in the United States in the 1980s with a big promise: affordable transportation for the masses. Its price tag was enticing, making it one of the cheapest new cars on the market. Unfortunately, what buyers saved up front, they paid back many times over in headaches and repairs. Build quality was so poor that many cars started falling apart within the first few years of ownership. The engine was underpowered, producing barely enough strength to keep up with highway traffic, and reliability was practically non-existent. Owners grew accustomed to breakdowns that happened at the most inconvenient times, with parts that failed far sooner than they should. Materials inside the cabin felt flimsy, and safety features were either minimal or absent altogether, leaving drivers exposed in even minor accidents. Maintenance was another nightmare. While simple in design, the Yugo was notorious for needing frequent fixes, and quality control issues meant two cars leaving the same factory could behave completely differently. Even when running well, it delivered little in the way of comfort or performance, making every drive feel like a compromise. Instead of becoming a success story in affordable mobility, the Yugo GV became a cautionary tale about how cutting costs too aggressively can result in a car that offers more stress than freedom. Number 2. Lincoln Blackwood. The Lincoln Blackwood was Ford's attempt to bring ultimate luxury into the pickup truck world. The idea sounded appealing. Combine the comfort of a premium sedan with the capability of a truck. The execution, however, missed the point entirely. The most baffling feature was the truck bed. Instead of being a practical space for hauling, it was carpeted, lined with stainless steel, and permanently covered with a power-operated tonneau. The result was a bed that looked fancy, but couldn't handle the work trucks are meant to do. Underneath, it shared much with the Ford F-150, but with a far higher price tag. Buyers quickly realized they were paying luxury money for a truck that lacked the very utility they needed. Availability was also limited, as Lincoln produced the Blackwood for just one model year, making it rare but not in a collectible sense. Sales were so disappointing that production stopped almost as quickly as it started. Inside, the Blackwood offered plush leather, wood trim, and all the comforts expected from Lincoln. But luxury features alone couldn't disguise the fact that it was impractical. It was neither a true truck nor a pure luxury vehicle, leaving it stranded in an awkward middle ground. The Blackwood ended up remembered less as an innovation and more as an expensive miscalculation. Number 1. Chevrolet Vega. The Chevrolet Vega entered the market in the early 1970s as an attractive, affordable compact meant to compete with rising imports. At first, buyers were drawn to its sleek styling and low price. Unfortunately, ownership revealed flaws that turned enthusiasm into regret. One of the biggest problems was rust. Poor quality steel and insufficient protective coatings meant that many Vegas developed corrosion shockingly fast, sometimes within just a couple of years. Then came the aluminum engine. While innovative on paper, it was plagued by overheating, oil burning, and warped cylinder heads. These problems often appeared early in the car's life, forcing owners into costly repairs that erased the affordability advantage. Combined with sloppy assembly and inconsistent build quality, the Vega earned a reputation for leaving drivers stranded far too often. The interior didn't do much to help its case either. Materials wore down quickly, and the overall feel was cheap, even by compact car standards of the time. For many, the Vega symbolized the decline of Detroit's reputation for durability, as it highlighted what happened when cost-cutting took priority over long-term reliability. Although it sold in decent numbers at launch, its legacy is defined by disappointment. The Vega remains one of Chevrolet's most infamous failures, remembered as a car that looked promising but delivered only frustration. Reflection. Looking back at these infamous vehicles, a clear theme emerges. Each was designed with a vision, but somewhere along the way, that vision ignored the essentials of what makes transportation work. Public transport doesn't thrive because it's flashy or innovative. It works because it consistently delivers three fundamentals: dependability, efficiency, and practicality. The smart Fortwo, Hummer H2, PT Cruiser, and others chased bold identities but left drivers dealing with stiff rides, outrageous fuel bills, or endless maintenance. The Tata Nano and Yugo GV showed how cost-cutting without balance leads to products that feel incomplete, even unsafe. The Lincoln Blackwood, Reliant Robin, and Fiat Multipla highlighted how novelty can backfire when it sacrifices purpose or durability. And the Chevrolet Vega and Pontiac Aztek revealed how poor execution can overshadow even the best ideas. Meanwhile, buses, trains, and subways succeed on consistency. They may not win style points, but they are designed for function above all else. They spread costs across thousands of riders, offer predictable schedules, and reduce the headaches of ownership. For commuters, this reliability often outweighs the appeal of having a unique car in the driveway. These cars failed not simply because of design quirks, but because they forgot the ultimate goal of transportation: to move people safely, affordably, and without unnecessary hassle. So, what do these 10 cars show us? That owning a vehicle isn't always the better option. While we often associate public transport with inconvenience, these cars prove that sometimes the alternative is even worse. Design flaws, poor reliability, and excessive costs all remind us that freedom on four wheels can come at a heavy price. Now, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Have you ever owned a car that felt more frustrating than taking the bus or train? Do you think some of these cars are unfairly judged? Or do they deserve their reputations? Share your stories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want to see more honest takes on cars, automotive history, and design fails, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next upload. Your support keeps these videos going and helps us explore more of the stories behind the cars we love and the ones we love to hate.